Thank you. I have updated the story framework based on your request. Here is the new proposal. Story category, Family Revenge. Main character, Emma, 58, female, retired school principal. Supporting characters. Alex, 35, sales manager, son/antagonist. Chloe, 33, stay-at-home mom, daughter-in-law. Noah, 7, grandson. Olivia, 55, teacher, Emma's sister. Proposed chapter headlines. A Mother's Gift. A Child's Whisper. The Unraveling Truth. A Calculated Pause. The Terms of a Transaction. The Unveiling. A Future Reclaimed. As you've given the go-ahead, I will now write the story. I'm Emma, 58, female. I live in a quiet suburban town, the kind with manicured lawns and neighbors who wave as they collect their mail. My life, once filled with the bustling energy of a school principal, had settled into a peaceful rhythm of gardening and volunteering at the local library. My world was small but full, centered entirely on my only son, Alex, and his beautiful family. The story I'm about to tell you is about how that world was shattered and rebuilt, not by an act of God, but by the calculated cruelty of my own child. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. The phone call that tilted my world on its axis came on a Tuesday. I remember the specific shade of the afternoon sun slanting through my kitchen window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. I was humming, wiping down the counters after lunch, feeling a quiet sense of contentment. The caller ID showed Alex, and I smiled, picking it up on the second ring. Hi, sweetie. How's my favorite boy? His voice was strained, thin and reedy, a pale imitation of its usual confident boom. Mom, he said, and the single word was so heavy with dread that the dishcloth slipped from my hand. Mom, I'm at the hospital. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. Alex, what's wrong? Are Chloe and Noah okay? They're fine. It's me. He took a shaky breath. My kidneys, Mom. They're failing. Both of them. The world went silent. The humming of the refrigerator, the distant chirping of birds, it all faded into a dull roar in my ears. The diagnosis was end-stage renal disease. The doctor's words were a blur of medical jargon, genetic predisposition, aggressive deterioration, dialysis, and the one word that hung in the air like a death sentence, transplant. Alex needed a new kidney, and he needed it soon. Without a second of hesitation, I said, I'll do it. I'll give you one of mine. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a choice. It was an instinct, as primal and absolute as the one that made me pull him to my chest the moment he was born. He was my son. I would have carved out my own heart and served it on a platter if it meant he could live. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of medical tests, consultations, and anxious waiting. My sister, Olivia, was my rock. She drove me to every appointment, her calm presence a soothing balm on my frayed nerves. Are you sure about this, Em? She asked one evening, her brow furrowed with concern as we sat in my living room. It's a major surgery. I looked at her, my resolve unwavering. He's my son, Liv. There's nothing to be sure about. The tests came back. I was a perfect match. The relief that washed over me was so profound it brought me to my knees. I wept, not from fear, but from a fierce, desperate gratitude. I could save him. I could fix this. Alex and his wife, Chloe, were overwhelmingly grateful. They brought my grandson, Noah, over for dinner almost every night. Chloe would hug me tightly, her eyes welling with tears. I don't know how we can ever thank you, Emma, she'd whisper. Alex would sit beside me on the sofa, holding my hand. You're saving my life, Mom. You're giving me a future with my family. He looked so tired, so diminished. The disease was taking its toll. His skin had a sallow tint, and dark circles pooled beneath his eyes. He'd lost weight, and his once sharp suits now hung loosely on his frame. My heart ached for him. I saw not the 35-year-old man, the successful sales manager, but the little boy who used to scrape his knee and come crying to me for a kiss and a bandage. I threw myself into preparing for the surgery. I read every pamphlet, followed every dietary guideline to the letter, and walked for an hour every morning to ensure I was in the best possible physical condition. I was giving my son a part of my body, it had to be the healthiest part one could offer. During this time, I noticed subtle shifts in their behavior that I dismissed as stress. Alex was often on his phone, having hushed, intense conversations in the other room. When I'd ask, he'd wave it off as work stuff. Chloe, who was usually so meticulous about her home, seemed distracted. The house was a little messy, the laundry piled up. I chalked it all up to the immense pressure they were under. Their husband and father was facing a life-threatening illness. Of course, they were on edge. To help ease their burden, I offered them my savings. It was a substantial amount, money I had carefully put away for my retirement. Use this, I insisted, transferring the full $100,000 into their account. You shouldn't have to worry about bills right now. Alex won't be able to work for a while after the surgery. Just focus on getting better. Alex protested, but not very convincingly. Mom, that's too much. That's your nest egg. My nest egg is you, I said, stroking his hair. It's knowing you'll be healthy and happy. It's knowing you'll be there to watch Noah grow up. That's all the security I need. He eventually accepted, tears in his eyes. You're an angel, Mom. The night before the surgery, they all came over. Noah, my sweet, quiet grandson, seemed especially clingy. He sat on my lap, his small arms wrapped tightly around my neck, and refused to let go. He was usually a bundle of energy, but that evening he was subdued, his big brown eyes fixed on my face with an unnerving intensity. Are they going to put you to sleep, Grandma? He asked, his voice a small whisper against my ear. They are, sweet pea, I said softly. Just for a little while. And when I wake up, Daddy will start to feel all better. He buried his face in my shoulder. I don't want them to. I hugged him closer, my heart swelling with love. It's okay to be scared, Noah. But Grandma is being very brave, and it's all for your daddy. When it was time for them to leave, Alex gave me a long, emotional hug. I love you, Mom. Thank you for everything. I love you more, I whispered back, my own voice thick with emotion. As they walked to the door, Noah lagged behind. He ran back and threw his arms around my legs one last time. He looked up at me, his little face a mask of conflict. He opened his mouth as if to say something, then closed it, his eyes darting nervously toward his parents, who were waiting by the car. What is it, sweetie? I prompted gently. He just shook his head, gave my leg one final squeeze, and ran out the door. I watched them drive away, a strange, indefinable unease settling in the pit of my stomach. I shook it off. It was just pre-surgery jitters. Tomorrow, everything would be okay. Tomorrow. The hospital was a sterile world of white walls and hushed efficiency. The morning of the surgery, I was surprisingly calm. Olivia was there, holding my hand, her presence a familiar comfort. Alex was in a room down the hall, and we were scheduled to go into side-by-side operating theaters. The nurses were kind and reassuring as they prepped me, checking my vitals, inserting an 4-line into my arm. I changed into the thin hospital gown, feeling vulnerable and exposed. But every time a flicker of fear threatened to take hold, I would picture Alex's face, Noah's smile, and my resolve would harden like steel. Just as the anesthesiologist was about to come in, there was a light knock on my door. It was Chloe, with Noah in tow. We wanted to see you one last time before, you know, Chloe said, her smile a little too bright, a little too forced. Noah insisted. I smiled, my heart warming at the sight of my grandson. Come here, my little hero. Noah walked slowly to my bedside. He was holding a slightly crumpled drawing of two stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. He held it out to me. "For you, Grandma." "Oh, Noah, it's beautiful," I said, taking the paper with my free hand. "I'll keep it right here with me." Chloe lingered by the door. "The nurse said we only have a minute. Alex is getting nervous. I should go be with him." She blew me a kiss. "We love you, Emma." "I love you, too," I said. As Chloe turned to leave, Noah leaned in close, as if to give me a kiss. His small hand came up to cup my ear, and his breath was warm as he whispered, his voice so faint it was barely audible. "You don't have to give Daddy your kidney, Grandma." I blinked, confused. "What do you mean, sweetie?" "Of course, I do. It's to make him better." He shook his head, his eyes wide and earnest. "No. Daddy already has a new kidney. He got it last week." The words didn't compute. They were nonsensical, a child's fantasy born from stress and confusion. I almost laughed. "Noah, honey, that's not right. Daddy is sick. He's waiting for my kidney right now. We're going to have our operations at the same time." He shook his head more vigorously, his little face filled with a desperate urgency. "No, Grandma. He's not sick anymore. I heard him tell Mommy on the phone. He said he paid a lot of money to a man named Mr. Petrov for a special delivery and that he feels great. He told Mommy that now they can use your money to buy the big new house with the pool and they won't have to tell you." The world stopped. It was as if the sound had been vacuumed out of the room. Every word Noah spoke was a hammer blow, cracking the very foundation of my reality. A new kidney. Last week. Mr. Petrov. Your money. The new house. Chloe was at the door, her back to us. "Noah, come on. We have to go." Noah pulled back from me, his eyes pleading, as if begging me to understand. A nurse bustled in, smiling. "All right, Mrs. Evans. Time to get you ready. The surgeon is waiting." My mind was a maelstrom of confusion and horror. It couldn't be true. It was a child's misunderstanding. A 7-year-old's garbled interpretation of an adult conversation. Alex was sick. I had seen it. I had felt his clammy hand, seen the exhaustion in his eyes. But Noah's words, they were so specific. Mr. Petrov. The house with the pool. The chilling phrase, "They won't have to tell you." "No," I said, my voice a croak. The nurse paused, her hand on my foredrip. "I'm sorry?" "No," I repeated, louder this time, finding a strength I didn't know I possessed. I pushed myself up, my head swimming. "Stop. I need to speak to my son's doctor. Dr. Miller. Get him in here. Now." The nurse looked flustered. "Mrs. Evans, we're on a very tight schedule. Your son is already prepped." "I don't care," I said, my voice ringing with an authority I hadn't used since my days as a principal. "There will be no surgery. Not for me. Not today. Get Dr. Miller. And get my sister." Panic was starting to curdle into a cold, hard knot in my stomach. Olivia rushed in, her face a mask of confusion. "Emma, what's going on? They said you're refusing to go." I gripped her hand, my own trembling. "Liv, something is wrong. Terribly wrong." Dr. Miller, a tall man with a kind but harried expression, arrived moments later. "Mrs. Evans, what is this? We're ready for you. Your son is waiting." I looked him straight in the eye, my mind racing, trying to piece together an insane puzzle. "Doctor, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to do it without asking any questions. I need you to run a full, current renal function panel on my son, Alex Evans. Right now." Dr. Miller looked completely baffled. "A current panel? We did a full workup yesterday. His creatinine levels were critical. He needs this transplant, Emma. Humor me, I insisted, my voice dangerously quiet. Please. There's been a development. I cannot and will not consent to this surgery until I see the results of a blood test drawn from him in the last 5 minutes. My insistence was so absolute, so unshakable, that it overrode all of his professional objections. He saw something in my eyes, the terror, the dawning horror, that made him nod slowly. All right, Emma. I don't understand, but all right. I'll order the stat labs. But this is highly irregular. It will delay everything by at least an hour. Delay it, I said, sinking back against the pillows, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Chloe had been sent away. The nurses were whispering in the hall. Olivia just sat beside me, stroking my hand, her expression a mixture of fear and bewilderment. What did Noah say to you? She asked softly. I couldn't repeat it. Saying the words out loud would make them too real. I just shook my head, a single tear tracing a hot path down my cheek. The hour that followed was the longest of my life. I stared at the ceiling, Noah's whispered words echoing in my mind. He's not sick anymore. He paid a lot of money. Your money. The new house. It was an elaborate, monstrous deception. He had been pretending. For weeks, he had been looking me in the eye, holding my hand, telling me I was saving his life, all while he was perfectly healthy. He hadn't just lied, he had performed. He had acted out a terminal illness to manipulate me into giving him not just my kidney, but my life savings. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. The cruelty was unimaginable. This was my son. My boy. Dr. Miller returned. He didn't have to say a word. The look on his face said everything. It was a cocktail of utter disbelief, professional fury, and a flicker of pity directed at me. He was holding a printout from the lab. He cleared his throat. Emma. I don't know how to explain this. I've never seen anything like it. Alex's lab results, his creatinine, his BUN, his EGFR, they are all perfectly normal. He looked up from the paper, his eyes meeting mine. In fact, they're not just normal. They're textbook perfect. The renal function of a completely healthy man. The doctor's words hung in the sterile air, confirming the monstrous reality that had been clawing its way into my consciousness. Perfectly normal. The phrase was a death knell for the son I thought I knew. Olivia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. I felt nothing. It was as if all the emotion had been scoured out of me, leaving behind a vast, cold emptiness. He has 2 healthy kidneys? I asked, my voice flat, devoid of inflection. Dr. Miller nodded, his expression grim. He has 2 perfectly functioning kidneys. Emma, the labs we ran yesterday, the ones that qualified him for this transplant, they weren't his. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place with sickening clarity. He must have swapped the samples, I murmured, more to myself than to anyone else. Paid someone off at the lab, or brought in someone else's blood. It's the only explanation, Dr. Miller agreed, his voice tight with anger. This is insurance fraud on a massive scale. Not to mention the deception, the emotional, he trailed off, looking at me with profound sympathy. I am so sorry, Emma. We're launching an immediate internal investigation. Hospital security is on their way to his room. I held up a hand. No. Not yet. Both he and Olivia stared at me. What? Olivia asked. Emma, he needs to be held accountable for this. He will be, I said, a strange, chilling calm descending over me. But on my terms. Not in a chaotic scene at the hospital. Doctor, can you please arrange for me to be discharged? Of course, he said immediately. We never should have admitted you. And my son? He'll be discharged as well. There's no medical reason for him to be here. In fact, he was already getting dressed when I left his room. He told the nurse he was feeling miraculously better and wanted to come see you. The doctor's lip curled in disgust. The con wasn't over. He was going to come in, feigning a miraculous recovery, hoping I'd be so relieved I wouldn't ask too many questions. The audacity was boundless. "One more favor, doctor," I said. "When you discharge him, please don't mention the new lab results. Just say that I had a last-minute complication. A panic attack. Something that makes me look weak and emotionally unstable. Tell him the surgery has been postponed for a few days, to give me time to recover." Dr. Miller looked like he wanted to argue, but Olivia put a hand on his arm. "Please, doctor," she said softly. "Just do as she asks. I think my sister has a plan." He finally nodded. "All right. I'll have the nurses handle it." As soon as he left, Olivia turned to me, her eyes filled with a mixture of rage and worry. "A plan? What plan?" "Emma, we need to call the police." "And say what? That my son tricked me? That my grandson, a 7-year-old, is our primary witness?" I shook my head, the cold emptiness inside me beginning to crystallize into something harder, sharper. "No, Lave. A police report is messy. He could twist it, say Noah misunderstood, say I'm a hysterical old woman. Alex is a salesman. He's charming, manipulative, and convincing. Right now, it's my word against his. I need more than that. I need undeniable proof." "Proof of what?" "He didn't actually take your kidney." "No," I said, my gaze turning steely. "He just took my life savings." Getting dressed in my own clothes felt like putting on a suit of armor. Every movement was deliberate, precise. The fear and confusion had evaporated, replaced by a glacial fury. He hadn't just lied to me. He had used my love for him, the most sacred bond in my life, as a weapon to defraud me. He had leveraged my maternal instinct to steal my future. He had looked into my eyes day after day, and played the part of a dying man, all for money. And he had involved his own child in this sick charade. When I walked out of my hospital room, Alex was waiting in the hall. He rushed toward me, his face a perfect mask of concern. "Mom. What happened?" "The nurse said you had a panic attack. Are you okay?" He reached for my arm, and I had to use every ounce of self-control not to recoil. I let my body go limp, playing the part of the fragile, shaken woman they wanted me to be. "I'm sorry, Alex," I mumbled, avoiding his eyes. It was all just too much. Lying there, knowing they were about to cut into me. I panicked. His relief was palpable, though he disguised it well. He wrapped an arm around me, pulling me into a hug that felt like a viper's embrace. "Oh, Mom. It's okay. Don't worry about it. We can reschedule. The important thing is that you're all right." Chloe was there too, her face etched with the same false sympathy. "Don't you apologize for a thing, Emma. It's completely understandable." The drive home was surreal. They chattered on about rescheduling, about how a few more days on dialysis wouldn't make a difference for Alex. I sat in the back seat, staring out the window, letting their lies wash over me. I watched my son in the rearview mirror. He was smiling, chatting with his wife. The picture of a healthy, happy man. Not a trace of sickness. Not a shadow of guilt. When we got to my house, they insisted on coming in, fussing over me, making me tea, tucking a blanket around my legs as I sat on the sofa. The sofa where he'd held my hand and told me I was saving his life. "You just rest, Mom," Alex said, patting my shoulder. "We'll handle everything. The hospital will call to reschedule in a few days when you're feeling stronger." I looked up at him, meeting his gaze for the first time. I let him see the tears in my eyes, but they were not tears of weakness. They were tears of rage. "What about the money, Alex? I asked, my voice a broken whisper. You need that money now, for the bills. He and Chloe exchanged a quick, almost imperceptible glance. Don't you worry about the money, Mom, he said smoothly. We'll make it work. The only thing that matters is you. He was so good. So convincing. But I had seen behind the curtain. I knew the truth. After they left, promising to check on me in the morning, Olivia arrived. She found me sitting in the dark, the untouched cup of tea cold on the table beside me. How are you? She asked, her voice gentle. I'm fine, I said, and to my own surprise, it was true. The shock had passed. The grief for the son I had lost, or perhaps, never really had, would come later. For now, there was only one thing. A singular, burning focus. I need your help, Liv, I said, turning to look at her. I need to find out who Mr. Petrov is. And I need to find out everything I can about black market organ trafficking. The next few days were an exercise in duplicity. I played the part of a woman recovering from a nervous breakdown. I stayed in my pajamas, spoke in a quiet, hesitant voice, and let Olivia field all the calls from Alex and Chloe. She would tell them I was resting, that I was still too shaken to talk about rescheduling the surgery. Their concern was a constant, suffocating performance. They sent flower arrangements with cloying get-well-soon cards. Chloe dropped off casseroles and soups, her face a mask of worried sympathy. Alex would text me multiple times a day, thinking of you, Mom. Just focus on yourself. Feeling a little rough today. Can't wait until we can get this done. Each message was a twist of the knife. He was still playing the part of the sick son, laying the groundwork to keep my money, regardless of whether the transplant happened. He probably assumed that, at worst, if I backed out completely, he would still get to keep the $100,000 out of my guilt. But while I was playing the invalid, Olivia and I were mobilizing. My quiet, suburban home became a war room. We started with the name Noah had given me, Petrov. It was a common enough name, but linked with the phrase special delivery and the context of a kidney, it was a chillingly specific lead. Olivia, ever the practical teacher, was a methodical researcher. We spent hours online, diving into the dark, murky corners of the internet. We sifted through medical forums, news articles about illegal organ harvesting in Eastern Europe, and encrypted chat rooms. The picture that emerged was terrifying. This wasn't a small-time operation, it was a sophisticated, international network. Wealthy clients, desperate for an organ and unwilling to wait on official transplant lists, would pay exorbitant sums to brokers. These brokers would then source kidneys from impoverished, desperate people in other countries, performing the surgeries in makeshift, unregulated clinics. The price for a healthy, black market kidney, we learned, was typically between $150,000 and $200,000. My $100,000 had been a down payment. He didn't just want your money, Emma, Olivia said, her face pale as she read a particularly harrowing report. He was going to take your money and your kidney. He would have let you go through the surgery, taken your healthy organ, and sold it through this Petrov person to another buyer for a massive profit. He'd have his own illegal kidney, your $100,000, plus whatever he got for selling yours. Maybe another $150,000. The coldness of it was almost incomprehensible. He had planned to mutilate my body for profit, on top of everything else. The revelation didn't break me. It forged my anger into something harder, colder. This was no longer just about getting my money back. This was about justice. Our breakthrough came from an unexpected source. I remembered Alex mentioning a business trip to Cyprus a few months back. It had seemed odd at the time, his sales territory was domestic. On a hunch, we searched for Petrov, kidney, and Cyprus. We found him. A man named Anton Petrov, a Russian national who owned a medical tourism agency based in Limassol. On the surface, it was a legitimate business, arranging for wealthy clients to have cosmetic surgery or high-end dental work done in private Cypriot clinics. But scattered articles from obscure European journalists and watchdog groups linked his agency to the illicit organ trade. He was a broker, a trafficker, a merchant of human flesh. Now we had the who, the what, and the where. But we still needed the how. How did Alex connect with him? And more importantly, how could I prove it? I needed access to Alex's finances. I needed to see the transaction. My son, for all his cunning, had one critical weakness: he was lazy about the details. Years ago, when his father was still alive, we had set up his bank accounts. I had insisted on being a signatory on his primary checking account, for emergencies. He was a young man then, just starting his career, and it seemed like a sensible precaution. Over the years, he had never bothered to remove me. He probably forgot I even had access. He had his own savings and investment accounts, but he used this main account for his day-to-day transactions and payroll deposits. It was a long shot, but it was the only one I had. That night, my hands trembling slightly, I logged into the online banking portal. My password still worked. My heart hammered against my ribs as I navigated to the account statement page. I filtered the transactions for the past 3 months. And there it was. 6 weeks ago. An international wire transfer. $100,000. Sent from Alex's account to a holding company in Cyprus. A company whose name, after a quick search, was directly linked to Anton Petrov's medical tourism agency. I printed the statement, my hands steady now. This was it. This was the proof. The undeniable, black and white evidence of his crime. He had taken my gift and wired it directly to the organ trafficker, almost certainly as the down payment for his own illegal kidney. The timing matched perfectly with his supposed decline in health. I sat back in my chair, the printout warm in my hands. The game had changed. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the one holding all the cards. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Alex. Really not feeling good tonight, Mom. The dialysis is taking its toll. Hope you're feeling stronger. We need to get this done soon. I looked at the message, then at the bank statement in my hand. A slow, cold smile spread across my face. Oh, we will, Alex, I whispered to the empty room. We're going to get this done. Very, very soon. The next morning, I called Alex. My voice was different. The frail, hesitant woman from the hospital was gone. In her place was the school principal, the one who could quell a food fight with a single, sharp command. Alex, I said, my tone brisk and businesslike. I need you to come over. Now. There's something we need to discuss. There was a pause on the other end. Mom? You sound different. Are you okay? I'm perfectly fine, I said, my voice like ice. Be here in 20 minutes. And come alone. I hung up before he could respond. Olivia, who was sitting at my kitchen table, raised an eyebrow. Showtime? Showtime, I confirmed. I laid the printed bank statement on the dining room table, face down. When Alex arrived, he was the picture of a concerned son, rushing in with a worried look on his face. Mom, you shouldn't be up. What's so urgent? Sit down, Alex, I said, pointing to the chair opposite me. He sat, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. I let the silence stretch, watching him, letting him squirm. The confident mask began to slip. He knew something was wrong. Finally, I spoke. I've been doing some thinking, I began, my voice calm and measured. About the surgery. About the money. About everything. He immediately launched into his practiced script. Mom, please don't worry about the money. And we'll do the surgery whenever you're ready. My health is important, but your well-being comes first. I held up a hand to stop him. Let me finish. I've decided I'm not going through with the surgery. His jaw tightened. This was a scenario he had likely prepared for. Now came the guilt trip. Mom. I know it's a lot to ask. But this is my life we're talking about. I need you. No, you don't, I said quietly. I slowly turned over the bank statement I had placed on the table. I pushed it across to him. Because you already have a new kidney, don't you? He stared at the paper. His face, for the first time, lost all its composure. The blood drained from it, leaving him looking pale and ghastly. He saw the wire transfer. He saw the name of the holding company. He saw the amount, $100,000. He saw his lie, exposed in black and white. He looked up at me, his eyes wide with panic. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The charming salesman was gone. In his place was a cornered animal. How, he finally choked out. Noah, I said simply. He told me. He told me you weren't sick anymore. He told me about the phone call with Mommy, about the money, about the house with the pool. He told me about Mr. Petrov. His face crumpled. The mention of his son, the instrument of his downfall, seemed to break him. I see it all so clearly now, I continued, my voice relentless, cutting through his shock. Your illness, your desperate need. It was all a performance. A brilliantly executed plan to steal my life savings. And it wasn't enough, was it? You were going to take my kidney, too. Let me go through a dangerous, invasive surgery to harvest a healthy organ you could sell for profit. My own son was going to put me on an operating table and sell me for parts. He started to sob, fat, ugly tears rolling down his cheeks. No, Mom, it wasn't like that. I was desperate. I was in debt. Save it, I snapped, my voice cracking like a whip. I am so far past caring about your pathetic excuses. You have two options, Alex. And you will choose one of them right now. He looked up, his face a mess of tears and terror. Option 1, I said, leaning forward, my eyes boring into his. I take this bank statement, along with a detailed account of your scheme, to the police. We'll talk about fraud. We'll talk about conspiracy to commit grievous bodily harm. I will testify against you. Your friend, Dr. Miller, who you tricked, will testify against you. I will make it my life's mission to see you in prison for as long as the law allows. Chloe will be implicated. You will lose your job, your house, your reputation. And Noah. Noah will grow up visiting his father in jail. He flinched as if I had struck him. Or, I continued, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, there's option 2. You give me back my money. All of it. The 100,000 you stole from me. And you're going to give me another 100,000 on top of it, for the pain and suffering you have caused. He gaped at me. 200,000? I don't have that kind of money. You will find it, I said coldly. You will sell your cars. You will liquidate your investments. You will take out a second mortgage on your house. The house you were going to buy with my money. I don't care how you get it. You have 7 days to deposit $200,000 into my account. If you fail, we revert to option 1. Mom, please. But that's not all, I went on, ignoring his plea. You are going to give me full, sole, legal custody of Noah. The color, what little was left, vanished from his face completely. What? No. You can't take my son. I can, I said, my voice hardening. And I will. You and Chloe are unfit parents. You have involved your child in a monstrous, criminal conspiracy. You have taught him that it's okay to lie, to cheat, to manipulate the people who love you. You have used him as a pawn in your disgusting game. He will not be raised by people like you. He deserves a chance at a decent life, a life where he is taught right from wrong, honesty from deceit. He is going to come and live with me. You and Chloe will be allowed supervised visitation. Once a month. At my discretion. He was shaking his head, mumbling, "No, no, you can't do this." "I can and I will, Alex. You have a choice. A prison sentence and losing your son anyway, or freedom and the chance to see him occasionally. If you fight me on the custody, I will not hesitate to use this evidence, and Noah's testimony, in court. No judge in the country would let a child stay with parents who would do something like this. You have weaponized your own child's innocence. That is unforgivable." I stood up, the meeting concluded. "You have 24 hours to give me your decision. And 7 days to get me the money. Now get out of my house." He stumbled to his feet, his face a mask of utter devastation. He looked at me, his eyes pleading for a glimpse of the mother he had known, the woman who would have done anything for him. But she was gone. He had killed her. In her place stood a stranger, a woman whose love had been burned away, leaving only the cold, hard calculus of justice. He walked out the door without another word, a broken man. I watched him go, feeling no pity, no remorse. Only the grim satisfaction of a plan set in motion. The next 24 hours were a tense, silent war. Alex didn't call. He didn't text. I knew he was scrambling, talking to Chloe, probably consulting a lawyer who would have told him just how much trouble he was in. He had no leverage. The wire transfer was a smoking gun, and the thought of putting his 7-year-old son on a witness stand to be cross-examined would be unthinkable, even for him. The call came the next afternoon. It was Chloe. Her voice was brittle, stripped of all its fake sweetness. "He agreed," she said, her voice tight with suppressed rage. "He'll give you the money. And we'll agree to the custody arrangement." "A wise decision," I said calmly. "I will have my lawyer draw up the paperwork immediately. I expect you both to sign it without any fuss." "You've ruined our lives," she hissed. "You built your lives on a foundation of lies," I countered, my voice like flint. "It was bound to collapse. Be grateful this is all that's happening to you. I could have sent you both to prison." I hung up. There was nothing more to say. Over the next week, Alex moved with a desperate efficiency. He sold his luxury sedan and Chloe's SUV. He must have emptied every investment and savings account he had. Exactly 7 days after our confrontation, a deposit appeared in my bank account for $200,000. The day they brought Noah over was gray and drizzling, the weather a perfect match for the somber occasion. Alex and Chloe's faces were stony, their eyes red-rimmed. They had explained to Noah that he was going to live with Grandma for a while, a long sleepover, because Mommy and Daddy had grown-up things to figure out. Noah, however, seemed to understand more than they gave him credit for. When he came into my house, he looked around, then looked up at me, his expression serious. "Is Daddy not sick anymore?" I knelt down and cupped his small face in my hands. "No, sweetie. Daddy is not sick anymore. And you were a very brave boy for telling Grandma the truth. You did the right thing." He seemed to relax, a weight lifting from his small shoulders. He hugged me, burying his face in my neck. "I'm glad," he whispered. I didn't like the secrets. Watching Alex and Chloe leave without their son was a strange, hollow victory. I saw the anguish in their eyes, and for a fleeting moment, a flicker of the old maternal pity stirred within me. But then I remembered the cold operating room, the feel of the 4 in my arm, the monstrous calculation that had put me there. My pity died a swift death. They had sown this bitter harvest, and now they were reaping it. With Noah safe and my money returned, there was one piece of unfinished business. My promise to myself that this would be about justice, not just revenge. I couldn't let Anton Petrov and his network continue to prey on the desperate and the greedy. With the information Olivia and I had gathered of names, locations, bank accounts, I composed a detailed, anonymous dossier. I included everything: Petrov's name, his front company in Cyprus, the bank he used for wire transfers, and a description of his operation. I didn't mention Alex by name. My goal was not to destroy my son, but to dismantle the machine that had enabled him. I sent the package to 3 places: a renowned international investigative journalist known for exposing criminal networks, the Financial Crimes Unit of Interpol, and the Cypriot Embassy. I had no idea if it would lead to anything, but I had to try. I had to turn this ugly, personal betrayal into something that might protect someone else. Life settled into a new rhythm. My quiet house was now filled with the cheerful chaos of a 7-year-old boy. We established a routine of school, homework, reading stories before bed, and weekend trips to the park. I was no longer just a grandmother, I was a primary caregiver, a role I embraced with a fierce, protective love. Noah blossomed away from the toxic environment of his parents' home. He was less anxious, more talkative, and his laughter echoed through rooms that had been silent for too long. He was the unintended casualty in his parents' war of greed, and I was determined to give him the stable, honest childhood they had almost stolen from him. The supervised visits with Alex and Chloe were awkward and painful. They would sit stiffly in my living room for an hour once a month, trying to connect with a son who was slowly becoming a stranger to them. They were grieving, I knew, but it was a grief of their own making. I was polite but distant, a warden in my own home, ensuring they never overstepped. About 6 months later, I was sipping my morning coffee and reading the international news online when I saw it. A headline that made my heart leap into my throat: International organ trafficking ring busted in Cyprus raid. Russian national Anton Petrov arrested. The article detailed a massive, coordinated operation by Interpol. They had raided Petrov's medical tourism office, seizing computers, financial records, and evidence of a vast network that stretched across multiple countries. The journalist I had contacted had broken the story, and it was now making headlines around the world. The anonymous tip, they reported, had been the key that unlocked the entire investigation. I read the article twice, a slow, profound sense of satisfaction washing over me. It was done. A truly evil enterprise had been brought to its knees. I had not only protected myself, I had, in my own small way, made the world a slightly safer place. The justice was not just for me, it was for the nameless, faceless victims of Petrov's network. That same afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Alex. His voice was raw with panic. "Mom, have you seen the news? About that man? Petrov?" "I have," I said calmly. "They're going to trace the payments," he said, his voice spiraling into hysteria. "They'll find me. They'll know I was a client. What am I going to do?" I took a sip of my coffee. "That sounds like a you problem, Alex, not a me problem. You made a deal with the devil. Sometimes the devil comes to collect. You have to help me," he pleaded. "You could tell them I was a victim, that I was coerced." I laughed, a short, sharp, humorless sound. "And why would I do that? You are a grown man who made a monstrous choice. You will have to live with the consequences. Or not. I really don't care." I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to him. I don't know what happened, whether the authorities ever came for him. I chose not to follow the story, not to look for his name in the subsequent reports. His fate was his own. By cutting him out of my life, I had cauterized a wound that could have turned septic. My life now is fuller than I ever could have imagined. Raising Noah is a joy that fills my days with purpose. He is a good boy, kind and honest, and he is the living, breathing proof that something good can rise from the ashes of betrayal. Olivia is a constant presence, a beloved aunt to Noah and my steadfast companion. The money sits in a trust fund, untouched, waiting for Noah. The original 100,000, my retirement savings, and the additional 100,000, the price of my pain, will be his legacy. It will pay for his education, help him buy his first home, and give him the secure start in life that his parents tried to finance through deceit. The money was tainted by greed, but I have cleansed it with love and purpose. Sometimes, when I'm watching Noah play in the garden, I think about the woman I was before all this happened, trusting, naive, and willing to sacrifice anything for my son. I don't miss her. She was a woman whose love was a liability. The woman I am now is stronger, wiser, and understands that true love isn't about blind sacrifice, it's about protecting the innocent and demanding accountability from the guilty. My son thought he was taking everything from me, but in the end, he gave me the greatest gifts of all, my grandson, my self-respect, and a future I reclaimed for myself.